We're talking about legalizing recreational marijuana now. Iowa Democratic gubernatorial candidate Rob Sand says he would do that if elected. Today, his lieutenant governor candidate, Dave Mulbauer, was asked about that position during a tour of a substance use disorder treatment facility.
Iowa Capitol Bureau reporter Isabella Warren is live in Des Moines and was on that tour. So Isabella, tell us about some of the concerns with this.
Yeah, during today's tour of Ember Recovery in Cambridge, we heard multiple stories from people who are on their recovery journey. But one thing in common was that marijuana was their gateway to addiction. It's why the CEO of the organization Youth Standing Strong, Andrew Allen, says legalizing marijuana for adults could send the wrong message to kids.
Our concern is that legalized recreational marijuana means a reduced perception of risk, more kids potentially using, and more investments that we're going to have to make as a state from a treatment standpoint.
Now, Allen says about 90% of young people struggling with addiction began using substances before the age of 18. Sand's campaign says legalizing recreational marijuana for adults would also bring tax revenue back to Iowa that residents currently spend in other states. Now, Mulbauer says he understands the concerns of advocates like Andrew Allen firsthand. Mulbauer's son was recently treated at Ember Recovery for mental health needs. Mulbauer says if elected, he and Sand would regulate marijuana for adults similarly to alcohol.
It's truly the age limit on it, it has to be for adults, very much like how alcohol is regulated. We want to put a framework around it, limit marketing and advertising, no public consumption. We realize that people in Iowa are already doing it, and they can go right across the border and get it and bring it in.
Now, Mulbauer says one way to prevent children from turning to drugs is providing education and support at Iowa schools. He says if resources are accessible to these students, then they might not turn to substances in the first place. In Des Moines, I'm Isabella Warren.
All right. Thank you, Isabella. Now, Rob Sand's opponent, Republican gubernatorial candidate Zach Lane, has said he would not support the legalization of recreational marijuana.